You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Floors Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Wayback Wednesday. I'm your host, Randy Adcock. So glad you could join us tonight. Got a lot of pictures to share with you tonight. I think it's somewhere around 45 or 46. We probably won't get to all of them, and that's okay. Kind of got a theme going on tonight, high school days. I'm calling tonight's theme High School Days. Ran across a bunch of really neat pictures from 1952 in that Charlie Killebrew collection online. So if you know anybody who graduated in 52, and I think we probably got some viewers that actually did graduate. They'd be in their mid-80s now, 86, 87, perhaps 88. But in any case, I've got some really neat pictures of a bygone era. So we're going to get to those just a little bit. I've got some farm pictures to show you. We travel over to Battleboro for a bit tonight and visit around a little bit over there. Got some pictures of restaurants that are long gone in Rocky Mount, a couple other businesses and buildings and so forth. So we'll get to all that in a minute. Before we get into the picture, I just wanted to take a few minutes and as usual, give a shout out to a couple of folks who have just been instrumental in helping keep this show going. And certainly, I've said before, this show to me is about you, the viewer. It really warms my heart to hear you when you call in and share your memories and your recollections about some of these pictures that we show on the show each week. And so, while we're on the topic of that, I mentioned this last week when I was talking to another viewer. It is really important to me that the information I put forth on this show, not only from my contributions, if you will, but even for those that call in, it's important to me that we maintain as close as we can anyway accuracy in what we're putting out there. So anytime, and I stress that anytime you hear me put out something that you know to be false or know to be inaccurate, please don't hesitate to call in. 407-1111 is a number. Believe me, I have thick skin when it comes to being corrected. You're not going to upset me or offend me. If I'm wrong, I'd rather be told I'm wrong, and let's get it out there correctly. So having said that, I've got some pictures tonight that were sent to us from Bob Marriott. Bob's a loyal watcher or viewer. Unfortunately, he's one of those that has to view the show over the internet, and I understand sometimes that can be a bit of a challenge to get a good signal over the internet. We're working on that. Hopefully we're going to get a better signal going out over the internet broadcast, so bear with us. But Bob sent a couple neat pictures to me last week. I didn't get a chance to get them on last week's show, but we're going to share them with you tonight. Also, I mentioned a week or two ago, Bill Dove, in addition to being a customer, I'm also a friend of mine, old Nash County boy. But anyway, he's got me on loan, I should say. He's loaned me these 3 books that we've shared a couple of these on the show before in earlier times. But many of you remember Mr. Buck Drone. Buck was a known storyteller and historian. Just had a lot of input into preserving Rocky Mountain history, Nash Edgecombe history, and so forth. And there's 3 books here, all put out by Buck Drone in cooperation with other people. And these were actually all presented to Bill Dove's wife, Jeanette, who sadly passed away here a few years ago. But each one of these has been signed and autographed by Buck Drone himself. And so this one is called Nash County Trivia by Vernon Buck Drone. And I just want to read a little bit of the preface here because some of the more interesting aspects of these books is in the preface. But it says Nash County is one of the larger counties in the state. And by the way, this one is Nash County Trivia. There's one on Rocky Mount Trivia. In fact, there's 2 that are both covering Nash, Edgecombe counties and Rocky Mount Trivia in general. This particular one here is strictly Nash County. So I want to kind of just read a little bit of this. It says Nash County is one of the larger counties in the state, and with it a good network of roads. Most are paved and some few still remain active to a road grader. I don't have an actual date on this book. I'm going to guess they're somewhere in the 90s. One of them did have a date, 1991. And they all, I think, came out within a few years of each other. So even though you don't see too many unpaved roads around Rocky Mountain anymore, I think there still may be 1 or 2 out in the outlying areas especially. But when this was done, there were still a few out and about, as he makes reference to here. At most of the intersections along this road system, someone has put up a drink sign, be it Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or Big Orange, and under that sign has opened a business. It is to such places that Buck John has been to get his material for his second book. All he has to do was to get one of those bottled drinks, a moon pie, sit back, not say a word, just have the knack to be a good listener. The hanger-ons in these little crossroad places have provided him with the most interesting collection of sayings and facts of Nash County. One of the better places to gather such information at one time was the front porch at the courthouse in Nashville. Back in the days when court was in session, and at times they would draw jurors from among those old fellows who sat on the porch, there was one of those members who in conversation used the word huge in nearly every sentence. One day he was holding forth and used the word huge 3 times in one paragraph. A young lawyer from Wilson could take it no longer and said, "Look, old man, you don't ever know what the word huge means. Let's hear you use it in a sentence." "Well, son, if this here courthouse was filled with tobacco seed, I would call it a huge amount." Enough said. A story out of World War II has a soldier on leave visiting a plant in Cognac, France, where they made the famous drink by the city's name when he registered that he was from North Carolina. The old man keeping the registration book looked up and asked him from where they made that good apple and peach brandy. Seems that he had become friends with the Tar Heel during World War I, and all he could talk about was how good the apple and peach brandy was. He remembered that in the town had a hope in it. Could it have been New Hope, Hope Mill, Stand Hope, or Spring Hope? 2 of those are in Nash County and could have been speaking of our county. This little book is for those seeking a lighter moment. I doubt if you will get anything from it that would win for you on a prize on Jeopardy. It is for that time of day when a person seeks enjoyment, so enjoy. And it starts off with just trivia questions, basically, going back to the very early times, 1777 and so forth. And all 3 of these books are just chock filled of trivia about Rocky Mount, Nash County, Edgecombe County. It is really neat to browse through. So the public library, by the way, has all of these on the shelves over there if you want to stop by and take a look at them. But thanks again to Bill Duff for sharing those with us. And Bill, I'll get these back to you in the next few days. Thanks again. Okay. I mentioned that we've kind of got a theme going on tonight of high school days. If you remember from last week's show, we showed you a picture of a burned out school over in Brattleboro. As it turns out, that was the black school over there that was, oh shoot, I don't know if we ever got a name for it, but anyway, it's been long gone. And we didn't have a picture of that school. I could not find a picture of that school before it burned. And so, with that being said, Bob Merritt sent these 2 pictures of the other high school in Brattleboro that is also long gone, but it was the Brattleboro High School. I had some relatives that went to school there many years ago. I don't myself remember the school. It was torn down long before I came along, so I can't say I remember anything about the school. But these first 2 pictures are that 2 that Bob sent, and I think they came from a 1924 Brattleboro annual, and this is the Brattleboro High School. It sat roughly where the Brattleboro Methodist Church is now, from what I understand. And he put a few notes here. It says, this is from Brattleboro Annual of 1924. The high school was moved to Whitaker's about 1947, with the lower grades being taught here until about 1954. The students from the Nash side of town went to Nash schools, and the Edgecombe students were sent to Edgecombe schools. The school was not used and was set on fire about 1958 or 59 by training school boys. Now, if you're not familiar with the phrase training school boys, many years ago out on 301, before you get to the highway patrol station, you could before turn right and go across the railroad tracks, and that facility there was what we used to call the training school. It was a boys' school for troubled young men, a youth prison, if you will, and periodically young fellows would find a way to get out of there and go about mischief around the area. And so Bob says he's not exactly sure about the date, but somewhere around 1958 or 59, some of those kids over there at training school broke out and got over there and set fire to the school and I guess burned it down. So the story goes that eventually the church was built on that property, and I think the original drive that goes up to the school is still there, going up to the front of the church. So anyway, but this was the Brattleboro High School, and this picture was taken somewhere around 1924. At least it was in the 1924 Brattleboro High School Annual. The next picture we've got is actually the principal, Mr. Curtis Grissom, and again, I'm not sure how long he was the principal, but this was, I'm assuming it was taken from the same 1924 annual for Brattleboro High School. And so, you know, again, this school didn't, sometime around 58 or 59, it went away. And so there's not a whole lot of history available. I did do a little bit of digging, trying to find some more information about it, more pictures, anything. And I'm sure there's probably some more annuals out and about. I may get a chance to swing by the library next week and just see if I can find a Brattleboro annual, maybe from a later date, and just see, might be able to recognize some family members in there. But anyway, so let's go ahead and lead to the next picture then. We're going to get back to some high school pictures in a minute, but while we're on the topic of Brattleboro, I came across these, I don't know, 3 or 4 pictures here. This is Mr. H.N. Davenport, and a couple things jumped out at me about this picture and about what's going on here. That bin there in the front and the bottom part of the screen, and off to the right you see that pile there. I'm not certain, I believe that's coal. It looks like it's coal, and I'm not sure what he's doing, but I zoomed in on this picture on my computer at my office, and I got a little more clarity, but that piece of paper he's holding up has actually got writing on it. I couldn't read it. It would get really, really blurry when I tried to zoom in, but so far. So I'm not sure if he was reading directions or reading something before he decided to throw it in the furnace and burn it up. But it looks to me like that's a coal-fired furnace there, and I'm guessing it's on the side of a tobacco drying building. But this is from 1952. In fact, there was 1, 2, 3 pictures of Mr. Davenport from 1952. I don't have any information about him. I don't know anything as far as where he lived or how long he lived. But again, these pictures from 1952, and he looks to be an elderly gentleman here, certainly in his, late 60s, early 70s, perhaps older. But anyway, let's go ahead and lead to the next picture, because the next one is also the same gentleman, and as you see here, those are tobacco leaves, and so I'm guessing just by the look of them, they appear to be pretty dry there. They've obviously been looped on the racks there and hung up to dry out there in the drying barns. And I wish I knew more about Mr. Davenport. I'm guessing that he's probably related in some way to David Davenport over from Brattleboro. Could be I don't know if he's a father, could be an older brother, perhaps, I'm not sure. But in any case, the Davenport name is certainly well known around the Brattleboro community. Okay, Lee, let's go to the next one in this grouping then. This is the last one in this grouping. And there you go. I think that's the same barn, just from a different name. Oh, we got a call. Let's get this call here. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
All right. Well, I don't really know the middle initial of Mr. Davenport you're talking about, but Henry Davenport from Gethsemane married one of my relatives, and he died in 1960. He was the oldest of 5 sons, 5 boys, but I don't remember what Henry Davenport's middle initial was. He's buried in Pineview Cemetery, and I was old enough to have my driver's license when he died, and I'd have to check. The pictures you showed of him don't jump out at me. When I used to see Mr. Davenport pre-1960, he was always kind of dressed up in a suit and whatever.
All right.
So,
do you know whether he's related to David Davenport?
Absolutely. Henry Davenport had a brother. I think his name, I don't remember. He was known as Tank Davenport, and I think that was David's daddy.
Mm-hmm.
David was at Nag's Head when Henry Davenport's son drowned on Labor Day weekend of 1948.
Right.
That person's mother was a great aunt of mine from over here in Edgecombe County.
Mm-hmm.
Name was Sidney Thomas Davenport.
Okay.
But Mr. Henry Davenport died in 1960.
Well, I'm not positive, but I think that's probably this gentleman here. These pictures are from 1952. And
he lived out at Gethsemane, out from Battleboro, 6 or 8 miles out in the country.
Yeah, I know where that's at.
David and Bertsy took that big old colonial-looking house down where Henry and his wife Sidney lived after Henry died. And David and his wife built a brick home there on that same site.
Okay, I know exactly where they lived. I sure do, yeah.
There was another one of those brothers that was a brother to Henry Davenport whose name was Andrew. There was 5 of them altogether, but I don't remember the other 2's name. I have seen and had them written down, but I can't go any farther with that with you.
Okay. All right, well, look, I appreciate the information. Thanks for calling in.
Oh, yeah.
All right, buddy. Have a good one. Okay. We're almost time for our first break, but before we go to break, let's go ahead and lead. There's 2 pictures here that I was really curious about. Let's go ahead to this next one. And in fact, these next 2 are the same lady, and I do not know her, and I don't know anything about her, but her name was Bobby, B-O-B-B-I-E, and her last name was Pritchard, P-R-I-T-C-H-A-R-D, and it's from 1952. And I'm not sure where she's at. I thought at first maybe she was in church, and she may be. But if you look up above the organ there, that's old pump organ, and above the organ, it says coats up there. And it looked like maybe they have some kind of drive. And if you look, there's actually coats hanging on racks there. So I don't know if this was some kind of, keep in mind, this is during the Korean War time. We'll talk about that a little bit more, some more pictures down further in the show. But I don't know if she was from Rocky Mount or from Battleboro, but she was in a collection of pictures that were from this area, and they were all from 1952. And let's go to the very next picture. It's the same lady, as I said. There she is at a piano here in this picture, of course. But I didn't know if anyone recognized or remembered her. Like I say, she would be, I'm guessing, in her late 80s by now. She appears to be perhaps in her 30s in this picture, so she may in fact be, if she were still alive, could be much older than that. But in any case, I can't say I remember hearing the name, but there was something about this lady that Charlie Killebrew took enough thought about to take a picture of her, twice in fact. And I don't know, something about, it was a simpler time, obviously, 1952, and she wasn't very fancy, but very nice looking lady. But I was wondering if anyone knew anything about her, had recognized that name, knew anything about her. If you do, give us a call, 407-1111. I tell you what, Lee, let's go and take our first commercial break. When we come back, we're going to show you some more pictures. High school days coming up, and we've also got some more pictures that are just general pictures around Rocky Mount, Nash, and Edgecombe County. So, Lee, with that being said, take it away. Let's go to our next commercial, first commercial break, and we'll be right back with more Wayback Wednesday in just a few minutes.
Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flora's Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service. We offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family. And we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
Hello, I'm Gus Tullis with Gus Tullis Insurance, and I'm here to talk to you about the extended open enrollment period. for the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare. Enrollment is available to anyone under age 65. Pre-existing conditions will not disqualify you, and I'm here to inform you of the subsidy that can be available to you based on your household income. You may not even be aware of the potential to improve your current subsidy. You need to take action because the benefits are available if you enroll between now and the August 15th deadline. Now I'd like to take a moment and share with you the annual household income chart. For example, this income chart shows a household of one earning a minimum annual income of $12,760 up to $51,040 and possibly more would qualify for a subsidy. Over the last 3 days, I've helped several folks qualify and sign up for the Obamacare plan. This could be you. To find out if you qualify for a generous subsidy, call Gus Tullis Insurance at 252-937-6913. Your subsidy is waiting, but the August 15th deadline is fast approaching. Call me today at 252-937-6913.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flora's Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
We're back. Folks, if you're just tuning in, you're watching Wayback Wednesday with Randy Adcox. Glad you could be here. During the break, I got a call from Bob Marriott. Bob's watching over the internet tonight on his laptop, he said, and said he's only had it buffer one time. So I got my fingers crossed that we're going to have some good signal coming across the internet for all of you who watch over the internet. And Bob had some really nice things to say about Mr. Davenport. Among other things, said he was a community leader, very instrumental in developing the Brattleboro community, very generous, donating money to the church and so forth. So I can't say I ever knew the man. He died in 1960. I was but a small tyke when he passed away. But it sounds like, at least for many of the Brattleboro community residents, Mr. Davenport was certainly someone remembered fondly. So thanks, Bob, for calling in. We appreciate the information there. Okay, before the break, we were talking about the high school pictures, and I do have several from Rocky Mount High School, 1952, I want to share with you. But before we get to those, there was another picture that I stumbled across in this collection from Charlie Killebrew. Again, these are all 1952. And I got to say, it really puzzled me for two reasons. Number one, the picture was captioned simply Frazer, F-R-A-Z-E-R, Kaiser, K-Y-S-E-R. Now, my first thought was Kay Kaiser, but the picture doesn't appear to have anything to do with Kay Kaiser. Then my second thought was there was a Kaiser Frazer car. And so I thought, well, maybe it has something to do with that. And it may, but it was really odd the way the picture was captioned. There was no other information about it, no explanation as to what that was going on in this picture. It's just a group of men. In fact, Lee, go ahead and put it up on the screen for us there. I don't know if anyone can recognize any of these people, and I don't recognize the building, sadly. I can't say. It's like a concrete block building. These gentlemen, for the most part, all seem to be very well dressed. I do see one or two seem to be a little less casual, a little less formal, I should say, more casual. But most of these gentlemen seem to be suit and ties, and it appears to be some kind of meeting. But the thing that threw me was the way the picture was captioned. As I said, it was captioned Frazer Kaiser. And so I looked hard, tried to see an image of Kay Kaiser. The gentleman is in the very center of the picture there. I guess could pass for Kay Kaiser, but then again, I've seen other pictures of Kay Kaiser, and that really doesn't look like him to me. So I don't know. I don't know what this picture represents, what was going on here, what kind of meeting this was. But again, I just thought it was odd the way it was captioned. And Charlie Killebrew, I'm guessing, captioned this himself with the simple two-word caption of Fraser Kaiser, 1952. So anyway, all right, without further ado, I mentioned tonight's thing was high school days, and I ran across some really neat photographs from Rocky Mount High School, not senior high, Rocky Mount High School during the 1952 school year. So Lee, let's go ahead and bring up this first one. This is actually the cheerleading squad from Rocky Mount High School, 1952. And I'm guessing this could have been taken, well, you can see in the background there's a gym there. And of course, this is the old Marigold Street. This is, by the time I came through here, this was not Rocky Mount, but R.M. Wilson Junior High School. And of course, prior to that, it was Rocky Mount High School before they built the new high school over on Tillery Street. But anyway, what you're seeing here is out in what I would call the courtyard area. I was only there 1 year because when I went through here, Rocky Mount, at least when I was going through it, we had 7th grade students went to Parker Junior High, 8th grade students went to George R. Edwards Junior High, 9th grade students went to this school, R.M. Wilson, and then of course 10th, 11th, and 12th grades all went to Rocky Mount Senior High over on Tillery Street. So this particular picture here is taken in what I call the courtyard of the old Rocky Mount High School, and I said the gym is still there. I think it's being used for a City League basketball now. But who got a call? Let's get this call. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
All right. The picture you're looking at right there is facing towards the front door of the gymnasium.
Yep.
This still standing over there where Rocky Mount High School was at.
That's right.
School building went into existence and came into being used in 1927.
Mm-hmm.
And it stayed there like that as the school. And I had an aunt that graduated in 1939. The gymnasium had just been built, but in 1936, the gym had not yet been built, so the school was there, as I understand it, and being used as a school, as the high school, from 1927 until about 1936. Mm-hmm. And then after that, the gymnasium building was built. But the school building was there for a number of years before that gym with the arched rooftop came into place.
Mm-hmm.
The house over there on the right-hand side, I used to run around with a guy who lived in that. That was a kind of an upstairs, downstairs apartment in the 60s, or the 50s maybe. And you're looking, that's where that picture's at, but I don't recognize anybody in that picture. 1952, I would have been 8.
Yeah, there's some pretty girls in this picture here, and some sharp-looking young fellas too. And I would imagine probably most, if not all of these folks have long since passed on. They would be in their late 80s.
Well, Gene Arnold, who used to be one of the owners of the dairy bar, I saw him at the farmer's market the other day. He's a little over 80. He graduated about 1955 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a cheerleader at Rocky Mount High School, but his coming into being a cheerleader with the Rocky Mount cheerleading squad didn't ever come into play until about 55 or 56.
I bet he knows some of these folks.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah, he probably does. Okay. All right, buddy. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Have a good one. Okay. All right, we'll get another call. Let's get this call. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, Randy, this is Bob again.
Yes, sir.
I can name some of these cheerleaders.
Can you really?
Yeah. The one on the left in the front row is Blanche Wilkins, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
She married Cocoa Booth, who was longtime mayor of Cary.
How about
There's
that?
that Cocoa Booth Amphitheater name for him.
Okay.
The third one over is Dot Whitley, and then you've got Nancy Williams, I think. In the back row, the short one there on the left, not the far left, but the second one, I think is Bo Thorpe.
Really?
Dan Herring, Carol Wiggs, and Aubrey something is his last name, but that looks like the 51 cheerleaders to me.
Well, now you know what? It's entirely possible that it is, and the reason I say that, the picture was dated 1952, but that could have been when it was, captioned. So it very well could be the 1951 cheerleader, and it just didn't get captioned until 52, or cataloged until 52. So now you went to Rocky Mount High School, right? I mean senior high, right?
Graduated in 51.
You graduated in 51. Okay, so you went to this school.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, keep watching, because I got another picture coming up in a few minutes that I think I know who it is, and I bet you do too. So if I tell you what, Lee, go ahead. Well, it's going to be a little bit before it comes up, Bob, so just hang tight.
Okay, I'll just hang up and see if I recognize anybody.
All right. Thank you, buddy.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, well, okay then. Well, let's go ahead, Lee. Let's go to the next one then, because, like I said, there's several in this group, and this, I'm thinking here, these are debutantes. Again, it did not identify these young ladies as any particular group, but just the way they're dressed, I'm guessing they're debutantes. And again, as I just said, it may very well be that this could be the 1951 class, and it just didn't get cataloged or whatever until 1952. But all these pictures that we're sharing tonight are from a 1952 collection. At least that's the way they were identified. So it's entirely possible that they came from the 51 class. All right, let's go to the next one then. And I thought this was neat because there's some pictures where some of the students took field trips. And this field trip, well, before we get to the field trip, this is actually the band class. And again, I'm guessing 1952, just because of the way it was captioned. I don't recall, I didn't take the band when I was, in fact, I'm not even sure ninth grade band was available when I was at R.M. Wilson. So this to me seems to be the auditorium, and I'm guessing they were practicing for some kind of event that was going to take place. They were practicing in the auditorium. Okay, Lee, let's go to the next one then. There you go. This was a field trip, and this particular outing took the students to the Evening Telegram. And so the gentleman there in the middle is obviously, his job is to work that machine. I'm guessing it's some kind of press. And the young ladies to his left and to the right appear to be eagerly watching what he's doing and getting some pointers on how to be in the newspaper business. Okay, let's go to the next one then, because there's a couple more in this same grouping. Here you go, this is another gentleman. This is at the Telegram also, and these three were identified as being Evening Telegram tour, excuse me, from 1952. So anyway, I don't know what kind of machine that is there to the left. Again, I assume it has something to do with the printing or with the press. It doesn't look familiar to me. And I'm sure they use an entirely different type of equipment now than what they used in 1952. But again, these were students that were on a field trip and went to the Evening Telegram. And the last one in this group of the Telegram, Lee, I think, there you go. And if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I've seen one, but I think those two machines in the lower left-hand corner of the image there are teletype machines. And it looks like the young lady just pulled off a teletype feed that could have come from the Washington Bureau, the New York Bureau, or some outside area, and information would come in to the teletype machines, and then it would be transferred from there into the local paper to be printed for the Evening Telegram edition. Talk about machines from a bygone era. There's two teletype machines, if I'm correct in what I'm saying. I think they are. And then just to her right over there looks to be an old typewriter. I don't know enough about typewriters to venture a guess whether it's an old IBM or not, but it certainly looks to have some age on it. So, alrighty. So there was another field trip that took place with some students. They went out to what appears to me to be the water treatment plant. This looks to be where Chico's is now, by the way. That over there on the Tar River, the water treatment plant over there. I think that's where this building is, what it looks like anyway. I'm not sure, I'm guessing these are pumping machines here, pumping river water through the system. But in any case, this building looks like what I would imagine that building over there where well, it's called the power plant, actually. I said water treatment plant, but it's a power plant where Chico's is. But in any case, this is another one of the field trips. This next picture is actually just captioned girls playing cards. So I'm not sure exactly where this was at, perhaps somewhere in the school. It also made me think it could have been in that teenage club that we've talked about in prior shows down in the basement of the old Masonic Temple building. So I'm not sure, maybe some of you may recognize the surroundings there, but in any case, it does look like a basement. That column there in the middle of the picture, it looks like it could be a support beam for a basement. So that was my first thought, was that it could have been at the Masonic building in that basement down there. But in any case, okay, Lee. This next picture is just actually a picture that was captioned as hallway. And there was some kind of event going on here. I don't know if they were practicing for one, but this looks very much like the second story hallway of that building that I knew as R.M. Wilson Junior High School. And of course, during this time, it was Rocky Mount High School. But I do think this is on the second floor. This looks very familiar to me. It's been a long time since I was in that building, but this does look like what I remember. Okay, this next picture, Lee, is actually from the shop class. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about the band class. This is the marching band. I'm sorry, not band class, the marching band. And I love this picture because of it's the front of the school, obviously. You see the columns there out front. This is a grand old building. I'm so glad this building has been repurposed and has been kept and preserved. I wish more of this type of work could be done in Rocky Mount. But in any case, this is how the Rocky Mount High School looked in the early 1950s, 51, 52 perhaps, and this is the marching band. So, okay, Lee, let's go ahead then. We've got a couple more that I want to get to before we take our next break. This appears to me to be a metal lathe in the machine shop over there. When I went through, we didn't have a metal lathe. We had a woodworking lathe, but I don't remember there being a metal lathe. But I've actually made a couple things in that shop when I went over there in shop class. Okay, Lee, I think there's another one that's also the next one, in fact. There you go. This young man is learning to use a micrometer. For those of you that are familiar with this tool, it's a very precise measuring tool that's used to measure outside diameters, pipes, and so forth. But in any case, the measurements are typically in thousandths of an inch. Very, very precise measuring tool there. Okay. All right, this is the picture I was mentioning to Bob about. Go ahead and lead to that very next picture. Oh, we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello, caller. You on the air?
All right. The person on the left in that picture you're looking at is the teacher. His name was Neil Ashley Atkins. He went to work with the Rocky Mount City Schools in the 1930s.
Did he really? Okay.
He taught industrial arts, shop at Rocky Mount Senior High, and before Senior High came into existence, he no doubtly would have worked at high school over there on Marigold Street.
Right. Okay.
All right.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it. Okay. This picture here, when I looked at this, the very first person I thought about, and Bob Merritt, I don't know if you recognize her or not, but she looked an awful lot like what I would envision a very young Fannie Lee Carter would have looked like. For those that knew Miss Carter, she was a character. When I first met her in the early 1970s, she was already in her late 80s, I think, then, and still substitute teaching. And like I said, that was the first time I ever laid eyes on the lady. But she had been a fixture in Rocky Mount education circles for decades then. And I'm not sure this is her. Like I said, I never saw her as a young person, but this picture to me looks like I would imagine Miss Fannie Lee Carter looked in her much younger days. Something else unique about this picture, I do not remember there being a water fountain in that courtyard area when I was there. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I do not remember there being an outside water fountain. Hope we got a caller. Let's see. Maybe someone else knows. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, that looks like Faye Reynolds to me.
Okay.
and she was in my class, and no, I was thinking that she married Claude Mayo, but she didn't. That was Betsy Carr out of my class and married Claude Mayo. But anyway, that looks like Faye Reynolds.
Well, and you're probably right, Bob. Like I said, she reminded me so much of Miss Fannie Lee Carter. I thought perhaps it could have been her, but like I said, I never knew Miss Carter until she was well into it. Did you ever know Miss Carter, by the way, Fannie Lee Carter?
No, I didn't know her.
You didn't know her. Well, she taught school for many, many years in the Rocky Mountain school system at various schools. And like I say, when I came into contact with her, she had been retired for many, many years and had gone back to substitute teaching. And she was to use a common term to young folks use, she was a trip. All right, buddy. Well, thanks for calling in. Appreciate it. All right, I'll tell you what, bring it back to me. This is a good time to take our next commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to show a few more pictures from different parts of Rocky Mountain and Nash Edgecombe counties. So folks, need to get a little snacky poo or a break, bathroom break, go ahead and do those kind of things now. But hurry on back. We'll be right back with more Wayback Wednesday.
Sponsored by Flora's Glass and Mirror Company. Servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Hello, I'm Gus Tullis with Gus Tullis Insurance, and I'm here to talk to you about the extended open enrollment period for the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare. Enrollment is available to anyone under age 65. Pre-existing conditions will not disqualify you, and I'm here to inform you of the subsidy that can be available to you based on your household income. You may not even be aware of the potential to improve your current subsidy. You need to take action because the benefits are available if you enroll between now and the August 15th deadline. Now I'd like to take a moment and share with you the annual household income chart. For example, this income chart shows a household of one earning a minimum annual income of $12,760 up to $51,040 and possibly more would qualify for a subsidy. Over the last 3 days, I've helped several folks qualify and sign up for the Obamacare plan. This could be you. To find out if you qualify for a general subsidy, call Gus Tullis Insurance at 252-937-6913. Your subsidy is waiting, but the August 15th deadline is fast approaching. Call me today at 252-937-6913.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service. We offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family. And we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
And meal preparation to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday. Sponsored by Flora's Glass and Mirror Company. Servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
And we're back. You know, during the break, I had a nice lady call in and she shared some information I want to share with you, the viewers. It seems Miss Bobby Pritchard, that lady we showed earlier in tonight's show, was actually a music teacher, and she traveled around to different schools around the Rocky Mountain school system and taught music to kids. She obviously played. The caller wasn't sure whether or not Miss Pritchard actually ever taught piano and or organ, but she was a music teacher. So, and you know, I have some very fond memories myself I did never know this lady here, but a music teacher, Miss Marshman, was one I remember from elementary school. There was a couple more that come to mind. I can see their faces now. I can't call their name. But certainly the music teacher was a very important part of the schools. I'm sure it still is for that matter. But that's who this lady was. Bobby Pritchard was a music teacher who traveled around from school to school in the Rocky Mount school system and taught music to young kids. So there you go. Thank you, caller, for sharing that with us. I appreciate it. Alrighty, so we've actually got one more picture that was in this Rocky Mount High School group, and I just realized after we went to break. So Lee, let's jump back and show this last one. And this picture is from the front steps of the school, very similar to the other picture where the band was, but these are 6 students here that are sitting out on the front steps, and I'm sure, Bob, you probably know some of these folks too. But anyway, a couple of things that jumped out at me. Number one, I don't know if this was picture day or if these kids were dressed up as part of an event or whatever's going on. But when you compare the way these young people were dressed in these pictures that we're looking at tonight to some of the kids you see going to school today and some of the clothes that are worn today in school, it's obviously a different time. I'll just leave it at that. But these kids are all very neatly dressed. The black and white Oxford shoes there with the bobby socks on the ladies. A good many of the young men are wearing ties, slacks, what we used to call Sunday school shoes. But just very neat in appearance. With the rare exception, you may see one or two with a little bit of a hairdo out of place or whatever. Perhaps the wind got in it, but for the most part, everyone is well groomed, well dressed, and just a pleasure to look at these. Okay, let's get this call here. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Hello, caller. Bob, you there?
This group of kids looks like the class officers for 52.
Okay.
The way they placed them on the front steps of the auditorium now.
Right.
They have the president, the vice president, treasurer, and so forth of the class.
Okay. So I'm glad you called in because now I can ask you, was this typical dress or these kids dressed up for school picture days?
They dressed up for the annual. It was picture to go in the annual.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. It does. But I would venture to say they were not as sloppy as some of the kids' dress I see going in and out of schools today, even when they weren't taking pictures.
All the trousers were pulled up high. Anyway.
Yeah, and the girls didn't have stuff hanging all out left and right, I'm sure. So, yeah, it was a different time, absolutely different time.
Class officers, I think, was 52.
Okay. All right, buddy. Appreciate you here.
Okay.
Have a good evening. Okay. All righty. So that takes care of the pictures from Rocky Mount High School. I want to throw that senior so bad, and it was not. It was not Rocky Mount Senior High School in 1952. It was Rocky Mount High School. Okay. This next picture is both interesting and sad to me. Lee, let's go ahead and pull it up. This picture was simply captioned, Edgecombe County Draftees 1952. Now, think about that for a minute. 1952, the Korean War was in full swing. And I don't know who these young men are, but there's at least a possibility that they went to war and one or more of them perhaps did not come back. But I was a little surprised it was only, and of course, I'm sure there were other pictures taken of young men who had been drafted to go off to war. I was a little surprised there was only 5 in this picture, and I'm not sure who the lady is sitting down below. I guess she had something to do with the draft board, but in any case, this picture was simply captioned, Edgecombe County Draftees 1952. And, interestingly enough, the next picture, Lee, is the Nash County Draftees from 1952. As you can see, it's a much larger group. Seems to be a pretty equal mix there of white fellows and black fellows. Standing in front of a Trailways bus that is probably fixing to load up and take them off to boot camp somewhere. The building in the background is Cockrell Auto Service. And I got a little information about that picture and about that building. Cockrell Auto Service was actually down on South Washington Street. I think the address was 131 South Washington Street. But Mr. Cockrell, if I'm not mistaken, and someone who knows the family can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe Mr. Cockrell had a daughter named June. And in 1952, June Cockrell was a sales lady at Belt Towers. Well, if it's the same June I'm thinking it is, in later years, Miss June Cockrell married a fellow by the name of Linwood Brazel. And Linwood Brazel went to work for his father-in-law at Cockrell's Auto Service. And again, I'm kind of putting this together from information I uncovered today, so I'm not 100% sure what I'm stating here is correct. And if anyone knows that there's anything that's not correct, please feel free to call and correct me. But in any case, I do know that Linwood Brazel married, his wife's name was June. Lynn was, of course, now passed away. In later years, the business came to be known as Rocky Mount Radiator Works. But this building, I believe, is the location that was down on South Washington Street. In fact, the next picture, Lee, if you would, let's bring the next one up. This was the city. Can you zoom out a little bit? I think that's a zoomed in image there. But I think this ad here actually has the address. And I don't know, it may have, I don't know why it zoomed in so much. It may have done it when I saved it, I'm not sure. If you can't zoom out, it's okay. But I do believe, I remember correctly, it was 131 South Washington Street was the address. And that's down the general area, if you know where Moore's Bicycle Shop is, a little north of that. There you go, 231 South Washington Street. And I looked that up on the Google Maps, and that's, like I said, it's a little north on the same side of the road as Moore's Bicycle Shop. And I don't think that building is there anymore. I looked at the street view of that area, and I did not see a building today that looks like that building that's in that picture. So, and of course, in later years, Rocky Mount Radiator was down there across from Dillon Supply Company on Washington Street. So, but like I said, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that this was June Braswell's father's business, because I do know that Linwood Brazel went to work for June's father in his auto repair shop. And you see there, it's a general auto repairs, painting, upholstering, radiator repairing, recoring, and I'm fairly certain this was the beginning of what we now know as Rocky Mount Radiator Works. And of course, they're out on 301 now, long move from over on Washington Street. Okay, we've only got a couple minutes left, Lee, so let's jump into the next picture here. I think we've shown this picture before, but this is actually the Miami Inn that was located at 1401 South Church Street in the 1952 city directory. I looked it up, and this is obviously taken at night. This building is no longer here. It's been torn down many years ago. But the next picture, Lee, is actually a screen capture of this part of Rocky Mount. Nashville Road will turn off to your left here. Adams Wholesale's off to your right over there. But right here on the right-hand side on that corner was where the Miami the Miami restaurant would have been. Miami Inn is what it was called actually, in 1952. So, okay, Lee, let's take a look at this next one because I want to quickly try to get through this one. We've shown this picture before, I think, but I wanted to, today I went through the city directory and I was able to identify almost every business in this photograph right here. That to the very left is Chandler's 5 and 10. Now just to the left of Chandler's, out of view in this picture, was Daniel's clothing store. So you had Daniel's and then Chandler's 5 and 10. There's I.W. Rose Drugs right beside Chandler's. That address, by the way, for Chandler's was 106 Northwest Main. I.W. Rose was 112 Northwest Main. Right beside that was the Rocky Mount Floral Company at 114 Northwest Main. Edgerton's Men's Clothing was at 116 Northwest Main. The Atlantic Life Insurance business was in a little bitty narrow space down there at 118 North Main Street. If you zoom in, I don't know if you can read it, but the Economy Auto Supply was at 120 North Main Street. And then that building, and it's hard to see in this picture, I know, but there's a couple buildings, that taller building there before you get to Montgomery Ward's, that taller building at the time was identified as the Wilson Bullock building, and there were several businesses in that building, but just to the left of it where it says Blunt Floors, that was actually Smith Floors at one time too. I don't know if it was the same Smith Floors that was eventually over on Falls Road in later years, Mary Smith Floors. It may have been, but in the 1952 city directory, that 122 West Main Street location was identified as Smith Floors. And you see on the front of the sign there hanging over the door, it says Blunt Floors. And then, as I said, the taller building to the right was the Wilson Bullock building. And there were several offices in that building. Citizen Savings was in there. There was a couple of insurance businesses in there. So there was a lot of different businesses inside that one building that was referred to as the Wilson Bullock building. Okay, you can zoom back out now, Lee. The next building to the right just to the right of the Wilson Bullock building was Carolina Electric Construction Company. There was one with a white front on it there, just to the left of Montgomery Ward's. And then, of course, the very last building in this picture is Montgomery Ward's, and the address in 1952 was 140 Northwest Main Street. Okay, so that takes us through actually picture number 28. And like I said, I had 46 pictures in tonight's format. So we've got some we didn't get to tonight. I apologize. We'll get to those next week. Lee, bring it back to me if you would. Let's wrap things up here. I want to thank you again, folks, for tuning in, those that called in and shared your memories. I always appreciate that as well. So glad you could join us tonight. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. Stay tuned. Next week we'll have some more pictures. We'll have some more stories, and we'll share some more things with you. Hope you have a great week, folks. Take care of yourselves and be kind to each other. And we'll see you next week with more Wayback Wednesday. Good night.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flores Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.